Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I'm sorry for being a bit late today. And good afternoon, all the Dhamma friends and brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. In our meditation course, today is the second day. I have discussed about the contemplation on the body the last week. So mainly when we meditate on our body, most of the time we try to focus on our breath. When we are meditating on the breath, the best posture is sitting, because only when we are sitting, our breath is more obvious. Today, I'm talking about the second meditation object in the four foundations of the mindfulness. Second meditation object means here feelings or sensations, contemplation on the feelings, or sometimes we also meditate on the physical sensations. So that means, what are the meditation? What object should be our meditation object? This is the first question. In fact, we are not meditating on the objects of what we do not have. We just meditate on the objects what we have. For example, like breathing. This is the most familiar with us. This is breathing. This is the most familiar physical activities. And we try to be mindful on that breathing. Same way, when we are walking, these are actions. So the meditation is not meditating on something we do not have. We are meditating, we are being mindful of what we have. So then that means we can only meditate on what we have. We can only meditate on what we perceive. We cannot meditate on what we do not have. So what we have, which object we can meditate on, according to the Buddhism, there are only two in the shortest form. It's the nama and the rupa, mind and matter. This is the shortest form of the Buddha's teaching. We are the combination of mind and matter. That's all. No more, no less. So then that means our meditation object would be mind or matter. We cannot meditate on two objects at the same time. So sometimes we might be meditating on mind, sometimes we might be meditating on the matter. If you are Buddhist and some knowledge of the Buddhist teaching, that could be more useful. In the Buddhist teaching, I believe most of you already know about the 5 aggregates. These 5 aggregates are in fact meditation objects. This is the aggregate of the forms. We have discussed it. This is our first meditation object. So I also say this is the easiest meditation object. because our physical body, physical movement, and physical activities are much slower than mental phenomena and the mental activities. So first one is the form, the aggregate of the feeling, the aggregate of perception, the aggregate of mental formations, then finally the aggregate of the consciousness. This is called the five aggregates. The five aggregates. We have discussed last week. Today, we are going to discuss the second aggregate, which is called feelings. Feelings is second aggregate, also second meditation object. In the four foundations of the mindfulness, there's called the four foundations. The first one is form or the body, second feelings, then consciousness, finally mental activities. These are four foundations of the mindfulness. Okay. Then we are going to focus on the five aggregates or nama and rupa. In the five aggregates, under the name of the form, of course we have some other forms and methods, but as a meditation object, we choose or the objects appear in our mind, or the clearest meditation object to observe are only the four great elements. The four great elements, the earth element, the wind element, or the water element, and the fire elements. Usually all these four are clearest and the strongest. That is why these objects are the most obvious objects to observe all. So even when we are meditating on the breathing, in fact it's not breathing. We are meditating on the wind element. Okay? So even though we have some other methods or some other forms, sometimes these forms are not clear enough to meditate, to focus. However, these four elements are very obvious, then we can focus on these objects. That's why mostly when we do meditation on our body, maybe our movements, maybe our headache or softness, hardness, all these are the characteristics of the four elements. Okay? So how about the mental objects? Of course we have mental objects, many mental objects. If you have studied the Abhidhamma, of course you know the consciousness and also 52 mental factors. Even though there are 52 mental factors, mostly the clearest object, or maybe the clearest meditation object is sometimes the mind. The mind sometimes is very clearest. Sometimes in context. In Pali we call phassa. Context also clear. But the third one, feelings. Feelings is the most clearest one. That is why, after meditating on the physical movements and the physical activities, the teachers show us to meditate on the feelings. So the feeling is the clearest object. You feel sad, you feel happy, you feel disappointed, you feel delighted. All these are feelings. So feelings in our mental activities, mind is also clear, contact also clear, feelings also clear. So in that case, we can also meditate on the mind, we can also meditate on the contact, we can also meditate on the feelings. It's not necessary to choose which one. Our mind always chooses. Our mind always go to clearest object, that's for sure, each and every moment. Maybe there are two objects, maybe contact and feelings. When the feeling is stronger, the mind naturally goes to the feelings. So we just take a note what we feel. That's why as a second meditation object or the second foundation of the mindfulness, feeling comes. So feeling is our second meditation object, or maybe we can also say a second most obvious meditation object. However, first of all, as a practitioner or beginners, we need to focus on our physical movements and physical activities. If we fail to meditate on physical activities and physical movements, that will be very, very difficult, very, very hard to meditate on the feelings. So I always suggest you, first of all, try to meditate on the physical movements, meditate on the body, then more or less we have some concentration. We are quite used to it as meditation object. Then we can meditate on the feelings. Okay, so feeling is second meditation object. On the other hand, the feeling is the second strongest, second most obvious object. That's why in Mahasatipatthana Sutta, the Buddha states feeling as second meditation object. Okay. Here just for the knowledge, mind, contact, feeling, perception, mental volition, one-pointedness, vitality, these are smallest mental groups. Then that means feelings in the mind cannot be separated. The same way mind and the contact cannot be separated. Perception in the mind cannot be separated. All these seven, including the mind, altogether, these are the same unique. Whenever the mind arises, feeling associates. Perception arises together with the mind. That's why it's called the smallest mental unit. Mind alone cannot arise. Feeling alone cannot arise. Then that means when the mind arises, feeling is not there. So feeling is always with us. The only one is we perceive our feeling or not. 24 hours, 7 days. Whenever we have mind, whenever we have something in our mind, we have feeling. Of course, some feelings are obvious, some feelings are not so obvious. That's why sometimes we think we do not have a feeling. I don't have feelings. In fact, so long as we have mind, we have feeling. So another thing, like in discussed today, feeling, whenever the mind arises, the feeling arises together with the mind. So then that means we cannot do about this feeling. Just need to observe it. Just need to observe. We cannot run away from the feelings. The Buddha, in the Buddhist teaching, the Buddha never teach us to run away from the feelings. Cannot run away from the feelings as well. So what can we do? Nothing we can do. Just we have to observe all that feeling. This is called meditation or the feeling or mindfulness on our feelings. Because Whenever we have mind, whenever we have a contact, the feeling will arise. So long as we have mind, we have consciousness, we have contact, the feeling will arise. We cannot do anything about the feelings. Just need to observe. It's not like anger. Anger, yeah, we can suppress. Sometimes greed or hatred, we can suppress. Feeling is not like that. Everyone has this feeling. Everybody has this feeling. You like it, anger, hatred. Good people do not have all these things. Very kind people do not have anger, do not have hatred. Feeling is not like that. Someone is good or bad, someone is kind or cruel, whoever they are, they have feelings. That's why feeling cannot eliminate it. Feeling will be there always, all the time. That is why nothing we could do about the feelings. Just need to observe it. So, how many feelings are there? Even in daily life, we can explain this very clearly. Everybody knows it as well. The feeling, what we are feeling every day, this is nothing new, okay? What to observe. So how many types of the feelings that means? Of course, these are three feelings. Pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, and neutral feeling. Nothing new. Meditation, so-called the feeling, is nothing new to us, like physical activities. Physical activities are nothing new to us. We are always doing, we are always acting, we are always moving. And we trying to be mindful of what we do. That's it. The same way, the feelings, meditation on the feelings. It's called pleasant feelings, unpleasant feeling, and neutral feeling. Everyone has these three feelings, one type or another. When we hear what we want, when we see what we want, when we get what we want, physically, mentally, of course at the time we have pleasant feeling. And then we get what we don't want, we hear what we do not want, and so on. All every situation, we have pleasant feeling. These two are very obvious, clear to see. That is why we always notice only these two feelings. We hardly notice the third one, neutral feelings. Of course, neutral feeling is not clear. That is why we hardly take a note about the neutral feeling. But technically, in the teaching it is shown, in brief, three types of the feeling. Everyone has it. Sometimes pleasant feelings, sometimes unpleasant feelings, sometimes neutral, or maybe we can say indifferent feelings. That means cannot say it's a pleasant, and then cannot say as unpleasant, neither pleasant, no unpleasant. So such a situation also we have it. So this is the meditation object, what we are going to observe. So the pleasant feeling also sometimes we can divide physical and mental. Technically speaking, we can divide physical feelings and mental sensation. So pleasant feeling can be two. Pleasant physical feeling and pleasant physical sensations. Feelings, of course, of happiness. These are mental feeling, pleasant feeling. And also physical sensations related to our body. And we are thirsty at the time we drink, and then we're happy, we feel comfortable. All these feelings are pleasant feelings, of course. But these feelings related to our physical body. So in that way, can be divided into two. Physical feelings and mental feelings and physical sensations. The same way unpleasant. If you are meditating or the new beginners, you are likely to have so-called unpleasant physical sensations. Something like itchiness, stiffness, numbness, pain. All these are related to our physical body. So all these feelings are called unpleasant physical sensations. Then after that, sometimes we may have unpleasant mental feelings. But neutral feeling is not divided into two. Neutral feeling is physical or mental, more or less the same, because it's very hard to notice. We don't even know sometimes. Only with deep concentration, neutral feeling or indifferent feeling could be observed. How to observe. Before we discuss about this, how to observe, let us go to the practice, how to observe. When we are meditating on the feelings, our posture, the main necessity to sit down. You have feelings whether you are sitting or standing or lying down. Last week I said, when we are meditating on the breathing, sitting is the best. Yes. Okay, when we are meditating on the feelings, sometimes may not necessary to take a seat. Whether you are sitting or standing or lying down, all these feelings will arise, unfortunately. Of course, when we are sitting, you are likely to have unpleasant feeling or sensation. Maybe you sit, you cross legs. If you are not get used to with this position, then maybe about 5 minutes later, or maybe 10 or 15 minutes later, you will get itchy feeling first. Itchiness. It's natural. We cannot explain. Naturally we have itchiness. Maybe sometimes on your cheeks, or maybe sometimes on your backs. If you are not meditating, you don't perceive all these itchiness. Only when you are meditating, your mind is quiet and trying to concentrate on the meditation object. That time, naturally we feel itchy. It's the first sensation. So what can you do? Your mind is still observing on your breathing. Itchy feeling arises. Maybe you may ignore that feeling. Then you try to put your mind on the breath. That may work or that may not work. So when the itchiness keeps on increasing, you cannot simply ignore it. So you have to do it. Finally, you cannot take it any longer. So the itchiness here, what we have to take it is, when the feeling is so strong, too strong to ignore, then what can you do? Nothing we could do, just observe it. This is practice. It does not mean you have to change your mind from this object to that object. Does not mean that. However, while you are meditating, focusing on your breathing, first of all, itchiness. Itchiness is a very irritating feeling, very irritating physical, unpleasant sensations. Sometimes this feeling is not strong enough, then we just take it focusing. Rising, falling, or going out. However, when the itchy feeling keep on increasing, We can't simply take it. So if we cannot take it, of course, at least our minds are there. If our mind is not there, if our mind is not on that feeling, then we don't perceive it. When we perceive the feeling, our mind is there. So we cannot deny that. Just have to focus on that unpleasant physical sensation. And no choice. That's why a moment later, this feeling, unpleasant feeling, will go away. That's why our mind is before we have deep and stable and profound concentration, our minds keep on moving one object to another. We just try to focus on this object as long as possible. We just try our best. That's all. Our mind will not listen to us easily. Okay? So here, sitting. When you are sitting, it's likely to have your unpleasant physical sensations like itchiness, stiffness, and numbness, and a pain. Maybe half an hour, 45 minutes later, maybe like a back pain, neck pain. When the pain is too strong, you can't ignore it. We cannot ignore it. If you're feeling headache, you cannot ignore it. This is a physical sensation, unpleasant sensation. So in the meditation, feeling or unpleasant feelings are the best friends. What our teachers always tell. Unpleasant physical sensations are the best friends of the meditator because they are so attracted that our mind doesn't go any other place. Is it true? Headache, very severe headache, or something you feel pain, very severe pain. If the pain is there, if the pain is so severe, the mind doesn't go to any other objects. So this means this object is the most attractive object. So according to the Buddha's teaching, nothing we could do, just need to observe all the unpleasant mental, physical sensations. That's why in the meditation practice, earlier stage, or maybe with the beginners, mostly we are likely to have unpleasant physical sensations, not pleasant sensations. Of course, the later part, you might have pleasant feelings and pleasant sensations too. But for the beginners, we are likely to have unpleasant physical sensation. So we must take a note. This is also meditation object. Physical sensations or mental feelings, whatever it is, this is our second meditation object. While you are focusing on here, if you can ignore, okay, just ignore it. But when it's too strong, you just cannot ignore it. Then take a note that feeling. That may go away or that may not go away. We are not trying to go away. We are not trying to drag them away. It's none of our business. There's pain, just focus on the pain. That may go away, that may not go away. Sometimes it will go away. Sometimes it doesn't go away. Sometimes the feeling keeps decreasing. Sometimes the feeling keeps increasing. A meditator doesn't try to be anything. Whatever it is to go away or not. Or it is increasing or decreasing. Just have to take it note. This is called meditation or feeling. Before we talk about that here, how to observe. This is what the Buddha is teaching. pleasant feeling. What the Buddha's advice for us is, all the feelings are leading to suffering. It does not mean there's no happy feeling. It does not mean there's a happy feeling. Pleasant feeling is happiness as long as it lasts, that's it. But it's leading to suffering when it changes. So this is theoretically the Buddha is trying to explain that all the feelings are one way to another, leading to suffering. This is from point of view of the suffering. So let us say I'm meditating for about 10 minutes. I feel all right. Maybe about 10 minutes later, I feel numb. Is it suffering? Is it true? Numbness, stiffness, we cannot deny these are suffering. So nothing we can do about these unpleasant feelings. Now we cannot deny it as well. So what we can do is, when the feeling is too strong, just take it out. Okay? So because of the pain or numbness, maybe I may want to do something, or maybe I may want to change my sitting position. That I say I'm sitting from this side to that side. So immediately after changing, all the pain and numbness or whatever goes away. At that moment, I feel good. I feel relaxed because I already changed my physical position, sitting position. But this only for short periods. Maybe sometimes later, I feel numb, I feel pain again. The second time, I still need to do it. That's why we feel happy only when we are comfortable. However, a few minutes or half an hour or sometimes later, our bodies keep on demanding. That is why happy feeling is a truth. It's a truth. When you feel happy, when you feel good, that's a happy feeling. We cannot deny it. However, it's only for a short moment. Happy feeling will not stay with us for all the time. So when the happy feeling or happy experience, good experience run away, that is no more happiness. Instead of happiness, the suffering step in. So this is the meaning of, in the meditation as well. You have been walking for so long, maybe 2 hours walking. Then your body demands to sit down and you sit. After sitting for a few hours, you are not comfortable anymore. Your body demanded that you have to walk it again. Or maybe you may lie down, then you feel comfortable. This happy feeling is for short periods. If you keep on lying down on the bed for some time, then you feel tired again. So the body or whatever is always need changes. Always keep on demanding the changes. So pleasant feeling is good as long as it lasts. But when it changes, it's suffering. So another explanation is unpleasant feeling as a thorn in the body. When the unpleasant feeling, naturally in the dukkha, the same. True dukkha, we cannot deny it. For example, headache is a true, very obvious to see. And we feel sick, and we don't feel good. All these are true feeling, true unhappiness, or maybe true sufferings. We cannot deny it. Nothing much to say about that. Neutral feelings, also nothing much to say. Here, what we have to focus on is pleasant feeling. Of course, we like the pleasant feeling. We like the pleasant feeling. We cannot deny it's a happy feeling. However, that would not last for some time. Even it is not physical body, because it's a mental feelings. The changes are faster and more often than physical body. Maybe physically sometimes we feel relaxed. It may take some time. However, mental feelings, happiness feeling, sometimes even tiniest moments, short moment. This moment you feel happy. Next moment, after the steps, next moment you feel sad. That's why mental feelings, also called the feelings, changes of the feelings are much faster than our physical condition. This one is the questions by the monks and by the Venerable Ananda to the Buddha. What is the feeling? We have already discussed the feelings, 3 types of feeling: pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feeling. What is the origin of the feelings? Origin of the feeling is a contact. We all know that. If there is no contact, there is no feelings. Here, contact means our eye consciousness and visible object and intention. These three mental psycho phenomena come together. It's called contact. If we have no eye consciousness, then there will be visible object. There's no contact. The same way, visible objects there, and we have eye consciousness. However, there's no attention. Then there's no contact. So in order to have a contact, there must be 3 altogether at the same time. Visible object, eye consciousness, and attention. When these 3 come in contact, link each other, this is called contact. After the contact, naturally the feeling arises at the same time. By the dependent origination, the teaching of dependent origination, the Buddha said, Judu, the contact, feeling arises. In fact, it's not like one after another. These contacts and feelings are mentally there. Simultaneously they arise and they disappear together. That's why in this year, origin of the feeling is only the contact. For example, visible object, consciousness, attention, contact. The sound and an ear consciousness, intention come in contact. The same way, smell and smelling consciousness, then contact. Whenever the contact comes, the feeling arises. So what is the origin of the feeling? The origin of the feeling is contact. The sensation of the feeling, the same answer. Then that means there is no contact, there is no feeling. But this teaching goes along with dependent origination. How does it cease? How can we make it cease? Nothing we could do. It's a must practice this so-called Noble Eightfold Path, one after the another. So here, quite interesting one is the advantage of feeling. What's the advantage of feeling? It's a great. When we are having the pleasant feeling, that's great. We cannot deny it. That's great. When we have a happy feeling, of course I like it. Everyone likes it. That's why the advantage of the feeling is we feel great when we have pleasant feeling. Of course we don't like the unpleasant feeling, but we like pleasant feeling. That's why, what is the advantage of feeling? Feeling good when we have pleasant feeling. Then what's the disadvantage of feeling? Disadvantage of feeling is going to change. This is the disadvantage. I have a pleasant feeling in this moment, but it's going to change. That will not last for long. It's going to change. the disadvantage of the feeling is keep on changing all the time. Always keep on changing. So what is it exists from the feelings? This also the Buddha explained this question according to the dependent origination. So, uprooting or eliminating of craving exists for the feeling. Okay. This is what the Buddha taught according to the feelings. Now let us go back to our practice. Okay. Why we need to observe all the feelings? Feeling is a natural phenomenon. We have to say we cannot stop the feeling. Everyone, every being has the feelings, whether pleasant or unpleasant, or sometimes not clear pleasant or unpleasant, so-called indifferent feeling. Each and everyone has it. However, after the pleasant feelings, our mind doesn't stop. After the feeling of pleasant feelings, generally we have attachment or greed naturally arises. After having an unpleasant feeling, anger or dislike or something naturally arises. I mean, it's a natural. If we fail to notice naturally, how about the indifferent feelings? Naturally, is not clear enough to observe. That is why being not clear, not being able to notice is part of the ignorance. Okay. That is why second meditation object so-called feeling must be very careful. This is a crossroad. After the feeling, the dependent origination, the Buddha said, dependent on the feeling, craving or attachment arises. But does not, the Buddha did not mention that dependent on the unpleasant feeling, anger arises. Logically speaking, in our daily life, of course, there can be anger or arise. In other suttas, this is explained in that way too. Naturally speaking, logically speaking, now I feel good. If I fail to note that feeling, then we move to I want it. After having a pleasant feeling, we move to I want it. This is the second level. I want it. That is why the feeling must stop at the feeling level. In which way? Just take it out. The teaching is when you have pleasant feeling, don't do anything, just take a note. Pleasant feeling, pleasant feeling, pleasant feeling. That's good enough. At that moment, our mind is in no concentration level yet. However, maybe mindfulness level. The feeling, pleasant feeling arises. At the mindfulness level, you just take a note. Pleasant feeling, pleasant feeling. If we can meditate on the feeling as a pleasant, then the feeling doesn't have no chance to move forward. If we haven't meditated on that stage, we go forward. I want it, I must have it. This is called attachment or craving. So practically and logically, after having a pleasant feelings, greed or attachment or craving, grasping, all these will arise. The same way, contact, maybe eye consciousness, and visible object, and attention, contact. After contact, I see, what it is, then immediately I feel it. If I'm seeing what I like, then I'm happy. If I see what I don't like, then I'm not happy. So then the feeling is there, pleasant or unpleasant, already decided. If it's the unpleasant feelings, naturally, after the unpleasant feelings, anger, dislike, likely to arise in our mind. That's it. So if we notice that, if we are mindful on that unpleasant feelings, just meditate on unpleasant feelings. So then that means anger is replaced by mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. But here the wisdom level is not deep yet. However, to some degree, there will be some wisdom too. However, here at this moment, if we are new, if we are beginners, we are likely to have more mindfulness. So at that moment, the anger is replaced by mindfulness. If we cannot do it, the show goes on. Okay, I have a pleasant feeling, and I fail to note whether in meditation time, or other time. And you do that, craving. After the craving, I must get it, I want to get it. This is our first inclination. I want it. In the Four Noble Truths is the karma viveka, related to the sensual pleasure, so-called I want it, I must get it, I have to get it. Okay, we may get it or we may not get it. Sometimes I want to get it. Sometimes we might get what we want. We might not get what we want. Then we get disappointed. So it's the following, the series of negative thoughts. Due to pleasant feeling, then attachment or craving. Due to craving or attachment, we try to acquire something. Then what we get, our attachment level change to another level. If we do not get what we want, then anger comes in. So these are always. First of all, this is a mental. If we cannot control, if we cannot suppress our mental thoughts, our greed and our anger goes to physical level of breaking. Okay. So this is the feeling level is very, very important. If you have studied the dependent origination, you could see this is the link we can stop, not the other link. In the Tibetan origination, there are 12 links a state. So, due to contact, feeling arises. Depending on the feeling, attachment arises. Here, the Buddha mentioned only the attachment. Why? The Buddha did not mention about the anger. If the possibility is there. If we have unpleasant feelings, we are likely to have anger. However, according to the commentaries, even the anger is based on the greed. As I explained earlier, he doesn't get what he wants, that's why he gets angry. So the original root of a humankind is the greed or attachment. When we don't get what we want, the anger steps in. In that way, the other commentaries explain. Happy people, then that means suffer people, those who get in trouble, they want happiness. The happy people want more happy life. In that way, we are wanting, or maybe we are based on the craving. So in that sense, Here, the meditation object, pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, whatever it is, must be able to observe at this feeling level. This from four foundations of mindfulness, the Buddhist teaching. When the pleasant feeling arises, take it as pleasant. That's it. But when unpleasant feeling arises, take note as unpleasant feeling arises. Later part, we may be able to notice an indifferent feeling, so-called neutral feeling. When neutral feeling arises, just take note as neutral feelings. Nothing more, nothing less. Only when we take a notice that this so-called feeling, the link between the feeling and the craving is cut down. If the craving is already linked to the attachment level, then it's gone on. First of all, we want something. If we always keep on using it, our craving level becomes stronger and harder to carry on. In the Buddhist teaching, it's called upadana, very hard to carry on. Once this anger level or hatred level is upadana, then this is going to create so-called life potential karmas. In that way, the Buddha explained in the Tibetan origination. So, from our practical views, these are the three objects, the most clearest object after physical activities. Like I introduced it earlier, physical activities are slowest and easiest to meditate. The beginners, we all beginners should pay more attention to physical movements first. In these days, around the world, many are meditating. Mostly they are meditating on breathing. Breathing is under the contemplation of the body. So far, I do not think they are meditating on so-called feelings. This meditation on the feeling will be directly related to our emotional management. I am sure. People, not many know yet that. Not many are practicing that. The science came to understand the benefits of the meditation. This is meditating on the breathing, or we can say contemplation on the body. Of course, when we can focus on the single object, the mind is concentrated. The concentrated mind is clear and pure or powerful, that's for sure. That's why in these days, they are meditating on so-called mindfulness meditation. Most of them focus on the breathing. But not many people are doing meditation on so-called feelings. Feeling meditation will be very useful for our emotional management. This is Buddhist way, emotional management. So how can we meditate? It's the second easiest one. The context and the other feeling, other mental activities are not very clear. The feeling is very clear as well. And each and every one we do, we say, we feel, we cry. These are our feelings. Even an unpleasant feeling, maybe different levels of unpleasant feelings. Sometimes happy feelings on the different levels. No matter what, these feelings are very clear and very obvious. The Buddhist teaching to practice on emotional management is when present feeling arises, whether it's physical or mental, just take a note. Physically, you feel comfortable. Let us say I'm meditating. When I feel okay, I feel comfortable. If you feel comfortable, the feelings is strong, then you cannot keep your mind clear, your mind good. Sometimes unpleasant feelings. When you have unpleasant feeling, or the feelings are too strong, then your mind, you cannot keep your mind good. Then just go to that. So we cannot deny this feeling. Sometimes pleasant, sometimes unpleasant. But try to take a note at feeling level. Feeling. Or sometimes we could say pleasant feeling, or sometimes unpleasant feeling, or indifferent feeling. If we stop there, our so-called this operational mechanism of our continuation stop there. At that time, our anger or hatred or delusion or illusion or unawareness, all these were replaced by mindfulness. In that way, we have to meditate. Secondly, why we have to meditate or feeling. Another reason is when we meditate on the feelings, the changes also go, the impermanence is more clear. In the Buddhist teaching, we may see impermanence, or maybe constantly changing, non-stop, ever, always changing. It's the Buddhist teaching, the first universal characteristic of the Buddhist teaching. However, the changing also happens in the matter of our physical condition. But in these things, in our physical body, changes will be there, but the changes are slow and not so clear. But like the feeling, changes are much faster. So it's a theory. Because of that, when someone meditates on the feelings, he or she is likely to understand the nature of the changes faster and quicker if he or she meditates on the feelings. Of course, we will have some changes in our body, but this is not so fast, not so clear to see the changes. However, the feeling so clear. This moment you feel good. Next moment you feel bad. This moment you feel happy. Next moment you feel sad. In that way, our feelings are each and every moment keep on changing. So if we keep on meditating on the feelings, not only being able to stop our greed, hatred, and delusion, but also would be helpful to our realization of the Buddha's, the most teaching of the Buddha, so-called three characteristics, universal characteristics, impermanence. The matters like feelings, changes are more often and more obvious. Everywhere, observe it. That is why, as a second meditation object, the Buddha encouraged us to focus on the feeling, meditation on feelings. In the five aggregates, feeling is the second aggregate. In the meditation objects, feeling is the second meditation object. Technique is not much different, but when we meditate on the breathing, it's possible to sit in. But feeling may not necessary. Even in your office, even when you're working sometimes, it's taken when you're getting angry, before you act according to your feelings or emotion, maybe you take some time, try to take a note your emotion. When you feel happy, take a note. Especially when we are associating with other people, in environment, especially we need to know about. We need to be more careful about our unpleasant feelings. So the Buddha's teaching in here is, when unpleasant feeling arises, take it. Unpleasant feeling, take it. Unpleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling. This will be helpful into our daily life. At least we might have sometimes to control our mouth or our actions. If we fail to note that unpleasant feelings, we are likely to say, we are likely to do according to that anger. That could also be very helpful into our daily life, especially unpleasant feelings. So the Buddha's teaching here is, when you have a pleasant feeling, take a note of pleasant. When you have unpleasant feeling, just take a note of unpleasant feeling. Feeling just arises. I'm not doing that, I'm not inviting, I'm not doing that. Why the feeling? Oh, because of the context. Nothing I can stop, it's a naturally arise. After the context, no one or nothing can stop the feeling when it arises. However, I can stop, you can stop, we can stop our craving, anger, and delusion. Stop no more after the feelings. That's why pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, neutral feeling. In the same way, sometimes our feelings are sincere. Sometimes our pleasant feelings are not really sincere. However, just take it out. Worldly or no worldly or whatever. In fact, brief, shortest form is pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Whenever the feeling right, just take a note. No, do not allow go beyond this feeling. If we keep on doing, or if we are always mindful on our feelings, that will help us for sure our emotional management. Nothing much, just trying to know what we are feeling and how we are feeling, pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. This will help us not only this even to control our body and mouth in daily life, the same way that will be helpful to understand the instant everlasting changes, so-called the impermanence. Body changes slowly, but feeling change every moment. So this nature impermanence is more clearer. So basically, when you are meditating, you are likely to have unpleasant sensations. Then slowly you may have pleasant physical sensations too. Sometimes you feel happy even when you are meditating. When your meditation objects are smooth and your meditation concentration is deeper, then you have very good, very peaceful feelings. At the time, of course, you feel happy. Okay, so basically, later times you may have pleasant feeling. Whatever, if you have pleasant feeling, you still have to take it. You still have to know that what you are feeling. The same way for the beginners, numbness, stiffness, itchiness, all these are unavoidable. You will have. That's why, as a meditator, sometimes we need to be patient a bit more too. Unpleasant feeling, just take it. Itchiness, try to be patient more than as usual. You always do. Patience will be very, very important when you do meditation. That's why last week I discussed the meditation of contemplation on the body. Today, this week is the second meditation object. This was a very clear, second clearest object, so-called feelings. So this feeling will help us in our daily life, especially like anger management or emotional management, I'm sure. But however, in these days, many people around the world are meditating only on the breathing, so-called first meditation object. As a Buddhist, let's move to second meditation. So feelings are solutions. Okay. Only the next week I will try to answer all the questions, whatever you raised this week and then last week. I'm sorry, this week I went out and I was a bit late, so I couldn't do answer your question. If you have any questions, please just write a comment on Facebook. Next week, I'm talking about meditation on consciousness. Same way I try to answer all your, if possible, all of your questions. Thank you very much. And I wish for you all well and safe.